Good morning. Have you had a good night's sleep? Har I sovet godt? Ja. Kom og rejs jer op, fordi nu skal vi lige i gang. Og vi skal starte med at synge til Jesus. Let's stand up because we will sing to Jesus now. Okay? Skal vi synge om den hellige ånd. Skal invitere hellige ånd til at komme. Kom hellige ånd. Er vi klar? Yes.
så synlig er han. Og 1, 2, 3, come on, come on, come on, come Helligånd. Come on, come on, come on, come Helligånd. Luft mig, rør mig, vend mig, send mig. Come on, come on, come on, come Helligånd. Din hånd siger nå, din hånd siger stå, din hånd siger din hånd siger wow, kapow, kapow. Din hånd siger nå, din hånd siger stå, din hånd siger din hånd siger wow, kapow, kapow. Vi synger om Guds hellige ånd, om Guds usynlige ånd. Vi synger om Guds hellige ånd, om Guds usynlige ånd. Og 1, 2, 3, come on, come on, come on, come Helligånd. Come on, come on, come on, come Helligånd. Luft mig, rør mig, vend mig, send mig. Come on, come on, come on, come Helligånd. Vi rækker hånden ud. Vi rækker ånden ud. 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 En gang til. Vi rækker hånden ud. Vi rækker ånden ud. Vi rækker hånden ud. Vi rækker ånden ud. Vi synger om Guds hellige ånd, om Guds usynlige ånd. Vi synger om Guds hellige ånd, om Guds usynlige ånd. Og 1, 2, 3, come on, come on, come on, come Helligånd. Come on, come on, come on, come Helligånd. Luft mig, rør mig, vend mig, send mig. Come on, come on, come on, come Helligånd.
Good morning. Before we go to kids camp, I just need to brag on the kids camp team a little bit. Pastors, church leaders, parents, these guys have been investing in your kids this week. It's a fantastic team. I don't even know how I can put words to it. The kids have always been a priority in the Vineyard, but there is, I feel like there's a special depth to it this year. I have witnessed the kids camp leaders on their faces so moved by God that they're crying for your kids. I just want to say thank you, and please honor them throughout the day. And today at 1:30, we will have a kids camp and kids ministry appreciation fika in Stråkenhallen. So anyone that's investing in kids, please come. We want to just show you how much we appreciate you guys and what you're doing. 1:30 in Stråkenhallen. Now let's go to kids camp.
stand up again. We will continue in worship, and we will start with the song we introduced last night, Real Thing. But I just want to pray first. Jesus, thank you for everything that you did last night. Thank you because you really went deep in many people's hearts. Thank you for a night of healing and restoration. And we ask that you will come and honor us with your presence today. You are so welcome. Holy Spirit, come.
There's a grace that comes when we say yes to the fire of your holiness. We want you and we want nothing less. Break the pride that hinders us, Jesus. We are blessed when we have nothing left but to hunger for your righteousness. We want you and we want nothing less. Fill our empty hands and lives, Jesus. Let your church arise in truth and grace. Now for the real thing, now for the kingdom come, now for refining. We are more than we become, now for repenting till our only Christ Jesus. Now for the promise, now for the church on fire, now for the fullness. We want more than shallow lives, now for your goodness to fill the whole earth, Jesus. There's a joy that comes in letting go. When we lose ourselves, we find love. We want you and we want nothing more. Break the pride that hinders us, Jesus. Let your church arise. Let your church arise in truth and grace. Now for the real thing, now for the kingdom come, now for refining. We are more than we become, now for repenting till our only Christ Jesus.
church uniting through the grace.
Let your church unite in truth and grace. Let your church unite in truth and grace. We pray, Lord. Let your church arise in truth and grace. Let your church arise in truth and grace. We want you, Lord. Let your church arise. We want you, Jesus, grace. Let us rise in Jesus. Let your church arise in truth and grace. You are the real thing. Let your church arise. Your church arise. Let your church arise. Your church arise. Your kingdom truth and grace. Now for the real thing, now for the kingdom come, now for refining. 'Cause we are more than we become, now for repenting. Till our only Christ Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. Now for the promise, now for the church on fire, now for the fullness. We want more than shallow lives, now for your goodness. To fill the whole earth, Jesus. Now for the real thing, now for the kingdom come, now for refining. 'Cause we are more than we become, now for repenting. Till our only Christ Jesus. Now for the promise, now for the church on fire, now for your fullness. We want more than shallow lives, now for your goodness. To fill the whole earth, Jesus. Jesus, be the center, be my source, be my life, Jesus. Jesus, be the center, be my hope, be my song, Jesus. Be the fire, be the fire in my heart, be the wind in these saints, be the reason that I live. and be my path, be my guide, Jesus. Be the fire and be the fire in my heart. Be the wind in these sails. Be the reason that I live. Jesus and Jesus. Jesus, 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 Jesus. Be the center. Jesus, be the center. Be my source, be my light, Jesus. Be the center. Jesus, be the center. Be my hope. Be my hope. Be my song, Jesus. Be the fire and be the fire in my heart. Be the wind in these sails and be the reason that I live. Jesus and Jesus. Be the fire and be the fire in my heart. Be the wind in these sails and be the reason that I live. Jesus, Jesus,
Isn't he beautiful, beautiful? Isn't he a Prince of Peace, a Son of God? Isn't he? Isn't he? Isn't he? Isn't he wonderful? Isn't he?
Isn't he
Wonderful,
wonderful,
wonderful.
wonderful?
Oh, isn't he
Oh, isn't he
a counselor, Almighty God? Isn't he? Isn't he? Isn't he? Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Yes, you are
Beautiful,
beautiful,
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Yes, you are wonderful. Oh, yes, you are.
Yes, you are.
Wonderful,
Wonderful.
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 Oh, yes, you are.
Oh, yes, you are.
Counselor, Almighty God. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Oh, yes, you are. Yes, you are. Oh, yes, you are, Lord. You are beautiful. Isn't he
Isn't he
beautiful?
beautiful?
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Isn't he
Isn't he
Prince of Peace? The Son of God. Isn't he? Isn't he?
Isn't he?
Jesus, we worship you. We adore you. We want more of you. Come and fill this room, Holy Spirit. More of you, Lord. Amen.
Thank you so much to the worship team today. Wow, you really lead us. They're serving us, you guys. Can we give them a thank you? Thank you for serving us and helping us. Hi, I'm Marianne Sporsheim. I live in Ålesund and I pastor the church there, Ålesund Vineyard. And I wanted to say good morning to everybody here, of course, and also to you watching streaming or watching it in delay online. Because I believe that right now is a very powerful setting to be. And I know someone watches it in delay, so it's not the same now. But I just wanted to say that it's your now. So my now and yours now is the most powerful place to be. I've been to too many funerals to think that now is not of importance. It's the most important place to be. And I just want to say that we are now surrounded by God, and there is no end to what He can do. He is here with His power, He's here with His love, He's here to touch you, to get to know you, to be your best friend, and to lead you. Thank you, Jesus, that you're here. We love you, Jesus. So, we have some practical information first. Can you come up, Thomas, first?
Morning. So, like I was saying the other night, one of the things we are very passionate about in the Vineyard is to plant new churches. And planting churches is one of those amazing adventures that God takes us on. And I know that so many of us are here because someone had the courage to say yes to God's calling and to go and plant a church, me included. So I really believe that God, He is still in the business of calling us to plant churches. I believe that for some of you, you have in this past time, and even, maybe even this week, He has given you a vision of a church that you would so love to see come into being. And maybe He's even speaking to you about being the one to go and to see that happening. And so, of course, it's a huge decision. It's a big thing to do. But if you want to take a step into that, you have an opportunity today, this afternoon. So we're going to have a meeting in the Café Mark down here at 2 o'clock. And this meeting is for all those of you who are already involved in leading a church plant, those of you who are doing it, who are have taken the big step and who are just fighting for this church to come alive. I really want to invite you to come and hang out with the rest of us. We have the amazing Dave Peterson coming. He's going to share some of his wisdom. There's going to be coffee. I mean, what's not to like? So please come and join us just to network. But also for you, if you're a leader and you're thinking, maybe God is poking me, maybe He's saying something to me about stepping into church planting, we really want to invite you to come. We are not going to tell anyone. You can come in secret, but we would love to just hear what's on your heart. We would love to give you some input. And so I hope to see you this afternoon at 2 o'clock. If you're not able to come, but something is stirring, you're also very welcome to come and talk to me. I coordinate church planting here in the Nordics, so you're always welcome to come and grab my arm and say, hey, this one is the best one. And then say, hey, can we have a chat, okay? So 2 o'clock in Café Mark. I hope to see you.
So good. And you guys, please remember also the offering tonight. So bring a lot of cash or credit cards. And that will be an offering to the Vineyard Nordic. And you'll hear more about it tonight, what we will about it, yes. And now, Jeppe and Mikkel, can you just make yourself ready and available?
Hello everyone, my name is Jeppe.
And closer. And my name is Mikkel, and we are part of the Night Cafe Entertainment crew. And tonight we have the traditional open mic. So everyone who wants to be a little bit of entertainment tonight for everybody, you can, after lunch, sign up on the big board in the Night Cafe. And Jeppe and Lucius and I will be there from around 9:30 to take care of any practical stuff. And then we will start the show approximately around 10 o'clock. And come happy and come with a lot of talent, because, you know, it is a talent show. All right.
We will be there. And there will be a volleyball tournament. And if you want to join it, we have 5 teams, we need some more. If you want to join it, sign up on the wall on Stråkenhallen. And this is what you can win. Okay, you have to move faster, guys. Okay.
You're going to have the honor. Wait. Oh, my back. Okay.
It's massive gold. Absolutely, thank you, guys. Before 2 o'clock, you need to sign up. Thank you. So, when we go on into the meeting, I have 2 friends. Our church has been on a road trip, can I say that? On a journey this last year, and it's about trying. It's a trying journey. We're taking step and stepping out, just like this camp is, and doing things we've never done before, and personally and as a church. And we have a sister church in our town called Downtown Vineyard. And together we've done a ESOM school through Causeway Coast Vineyard. It's like an encounter school of mission, practicing and trying. And 2 of my friends from that school will come up now, Doriana and Roald. And I'll tell you 2 stories about trying.
So I wanted to tell you two stories of the first healings I saw. Two of the first healings I saw. So I was in school when I was 16 years old, and I had this friend who was really sick one day, and he was just sitting up against the wall, just being sick. And I went up to him and asked him, "Is it okay if I pray for you? I actually believe that God can heal you." Yeah, I'm open for anything," he said. So I laid my hand on him, prayed a quick prayer, and after praying, he's just sitting there looking straight forward with like eyes wide open, and he started cussing. He said, "I think I'll convert," and he continued cussing. All the pain was gone, he said. And that was like one of the first healings I saw. And a few days later, I had this friend, we were sitting in class, and she took up this painkiller and was ready to take it. And I stopped her and told her the story of this guy who was healed. And I said, "Is it okay if I just pray for you before you take the painkiller?" Yeah, it was okay. So laid my hand on her, prayed a quick prayer. And after praying, she just took the painkiller, put the painkiller in the box, put the box in the bag, and just continued listening to the teacher. And I was just like sitting there shaking with excitement, like, "What is going on?" I asked her. "All the pain is gone." And she continued listening to the teacher. So I think she was in shock or something. But the reason I'm sharing these two stories isn't really because of the stories themselves, but because of what happened before it. Because before this, I really felt God calling me to step out and pray for the sick. And I told him that I couldn't. I'm sorry, I'm not worthy. I had been a Christian for half a year, and it was still like, I had stuff to work through, I told him. And I really felt him say, when you step out and reach out to others, then I will reach into your life and fix the things that are broken in you. And he also said, "Don't wait to obey me until you can obey me more." Meaning, don't wait to obey me with stepping out until you can obey me with all these other rules. Like, we're not just trying to follow rules, we're having a relationship. And a relationship isn't about just being perfect all at once. It's about taking another step in obedience, and then another step in obedience. So I really want to encourage you guys, step out, do what God has called you to do. Don't wait till you're worthy, like you'll never be worthy. A part of being worthy is actually obeying God in everything. So, yeah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Doriana. Sorry for my voice. My husband thinks that I sound like Bonnie Tyler. A little closer, yes. So my name is Doriana, and I come from Albania. And I want to share a story that started 26 years ago, and it still continues today. I gave my life to Jesus 30 years ago, and I was in a team of a church plant. 26 years ago, I finished the Bible studies in the Bible school, and we were sent in a 2 weeks missionary trip all over Albania. And I was sent in the northern part of Albania, in the big city, the biggest city in the northern part. And there we could go every day, every morning. We went out 2 and 2 and stopped everyone we could find and shared the gospel. And this is what I have done the last 5 years, sharing the gospel everywhere I went. And this day there were 2 young girls that we stopped and we shared the gospel. One of them, it was a ripe fruit, really. So she gave her life to Jesus there. I shared the gospel, and it was amazing. And she came to the church service that evening, and I never heard from her again. I didn't remember the story until 23 years ago. After 23 years, so 3 years ago, I was wondering and thinking, God, it would have been so nice to know the stories everywhere we go and we plant and we share your kingdom. It could be so nice just to know what happened to the lives of these people we share. If you have done something in their lives. But I was in peace, and I was thinking, it's okay. It would be nice, but it's okay if it's I don't know anything. But on my birthday, 3 years ago, I got a phone call from this lady that says, "Do you remember me, Doriana?" I said, "Sorry, I have no idea who you are." "Do you remember such and such time and this time?" And I was like, and I was thinking these thoughts like 3-4 days before that. And I was like, thank you, Father, for this beautiful gift you gave me on my birthday. But the story doesn't end there. The story continues, because she continued to go to that church, and she met a young man that happened to be in my Bible school that I knew, and they fell in love and got married, and they moved to their hometown, and they started a new church plant, and they started a new church, and lives were changing in that little town. It's a little town in Albania, and everyone was involved around that church. And still the story doesn't end, because last week I had a dinner together with my family with a new pastor couple that are in my church. I call it my church because it has been the church I got saved and I helped starting 30 years ago. They are the new couple. And I know him, but I never met her before. I never knew her before. And she told me the story. She got saved and gave her life to Jesus and began serving in this little hometown, in this church, that this young couple moved from the northern Albania and come and started a new life in this part of Albania. And for me, it's like, it's such a privilege to step out. I was thinking that, and it's such an amazing opportunity for me that the Father has allowed me to know this story, because we never know. Everywhere we go, we bring the kingdom with us, and we step out, and we don't know what happens with these people afterwards. But I would like to really encourage all of you just to step out and don't hold back, because you never know what will happen on the other side of your obedience. There is salvation, there is breakthrough, there is healing on the other side of your obedience. It can change the lives of people, individuals, it can change the lives of a city or a town, and even can change the life of a nation. And for me, I get that out of my obedience, many towns and cities have been impacted by the kingdom of God. So, God bless you.
So, thank you very much. Yeah. Now, you guys, we're up for a real treat. Now, Anna Forsberg is going to speak to us. I don't know her personally, but you know what? I listened to the Vineyard Nordic podcast. Are you many that listens to the Vineyard Nordic podcast here? Come on, raise your hand if you've ever listened to one of the episodes of Vineyard Nordic podcast, and there is a big mission field right here. We need to embrace that. It's such a good podcast. Every time I listen to it, I get so encouraged. I get so filled with the truth. So if you ever want to be encouraged and know a little bit more about what the Vineyard is about, listen to the Vineyard Nordic podcast where you listen. Okay, and Anna, she told there that she's a mother of 3, still 3, and she's married to Per-Ola. And they moved from Copenhagen to Malmö some years ago to plant a church there. And that is a sign of bravery. You're very brave, obviously. And also, I listened to her speak, and it is a heart of compassion in that lady that is very wide. And I would love to hear you today and to be affected by your heart. So we are in for a treat. Please welcome Anna Forsberg.
Oh, I don't need this, right? 2, I don't need 2. Oh, thank you so much. I've been crying like all day yesterday and all this morning. So we'll see how this goes, okay? We'll see how this goes. Great. So she said, my name is Anna. And I'm really, really happy to be here. This is family to me, the Vineyard Nordic family, and I've missed you guys a lot. I live in Sweden, so I'm Swedish. I just applied. I'm going to be a Swedish citizen because I've lived here 5 years without going to jail. So, oh, no. Er det her bedre? Oh, sorry, that was Danish. No, it's not better. So, anyways, so I feel really at home here because, oh, this is just what I needed, right? He said like a thumb, and I'm like, dumb. Sådan her. Thank you so much, right? Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Anyway, so I feel really, really at home here, right? Because I'm Danish and I'm Swedish, and I love Norway and Finland. This is a great place for me to be. So I'm married to my awesome husband, Per-Ola. He's from Sweden. And it was actually here at summer camp that we did not get together. So for the first few years of our friendship, Per-Ola and I thought that the other one was really, really madly in love with us, and we just didn't feel the same way. So right over here, we started a really awkward, like, mutual rejection of each other, like, you're great, yeah. And then we went up to Stroke and Helen and went separate direction in Night Cafe and just didn't talk for a while. But then we continued to be friends, and after a few years we did fall in love and all of those things, and now we're married and we have 3 beautiful children. I think there's a picture of them. Yes, this is us on vacation. Yes. So we live in Sweden, in Malmö, in the southern part by the ocean. I love, love, love Malmö. I just have to say, I didn't plan to say that, but I mean, so many people are like Malmö, but I'm like Malmö. I'm seriously, it's a great, great city, and everyone is welcome to come and join us for one, but also just visit us. We love visitors from all over the Vineyard Nordic. So if you have your way through, just please come by. I wasn't planning on doing this, but I'm going to do it anyway, because I usually lead kids camp. Like, I've been in kids camp all week. And now I have the microphone, so I get to decide what you guys are doing for a little while. And I was thinking that we could, all of us, pray for the kids in the kids camp right now, okay? So what we're going to do is I'm going to turn my back to you, and we can all stretch. All the kids are over here, okay? So just stretch out your arms and pray for the kids that are there. You can just mention names out loud that you know, because a South African friend of mine, he said to me, in Africa, like, raising a child takes a village, right? You've heard this. And he said, but in Scandinavia, it is like desperate, confused parents on their own little islands being all isolated. And we need to be, our church family needs to have a kingdom culture mindset about raising up children together, okay? So we're going to pray for kids now, pray for your own kids, and pray for the other kids that you know by name, that God would come now in the kids camp on them so that they would encounter him, okay? So I'm just going to pray with you guys for all the kids that are here, okay? Gud, jeg beder om, at du vil komme i dit nærvær nu, de her børn, at du må være med dit nærvær nu, hver eneste professor, nu er jeg ved at komme i dit nærvær. So God, I thank you for all of the kids in the kids camp. I pray that your spirit would come powerfully on them, that they would see pictures of what you want to play with them today, and what you're, just let them see you. Pray that they would see you. Amen. Sorry, I will not turn my back on you guys again. When praying about the theme for the camp and preparing for today, I was doing laundry, and I was chatting to God and saying, stepping out. And I felt God saying back to me, stepping out is really stepping in. Stepping out, you need to step into my presence, just like Fleming said on Sunday night. So I want to talk about stepping into God's presence. And what came to mind for me in pondering this was Moses. So we'll be spending some time talking about his life and his leadership and how that can guide us today. Because we can go on many endeavors for God, right, without God. But stepping out and then stepping into God's presence, that's really like insisting, I will go nowhere without God, right? Moses refused to go on without God. And this story is found in Exodus. Exodus is the second book of Moses, as we say here. And Exodus means like X out, odos in Greek, road. So it's the road out. It's the stepping out book. So really appropriate for us to talk about it today, right? I want to give some background to this. So the Israelites have been slaves in Egypt for 400 years. Okay? 400 years, that's a long time of slave mentality. They were not allowed to go away from their work to worship. They were their work. Okay? Moses is born into this. He's also a slave. And Pharaoh is afraid that all of the slaves will rebel, so he just orders all the baby boys to be killed. And so Moses is supposed to be killed, but miraculously, he's brought up as an Egyptian prince. Right. And Moses grows up, and he sees an Egyptian man attack a Hebrew slave. And Moses gets really furious. He's angry about the slavery. He gets so upset that he just decides, I'm going to take care of this. I'm going to take matters into my own hand, and he kills the Egyptians. He's found out, and he has to flee. And so he meets with God in the desert, and he goes back to Egypt, and he leads the people out. And the story we're at now is when they've arrived at Mount Sinai. I'm going to read it in just a moment. And what happened here is that Moses is going up the mountain to get the 10 Commandments, the 2 tablets. And he's taking a really long time in God's presence. He's taking a really long time up there, and the Israelites are getting frustrated because they're not used to this. And so they rebel. And they decide, this Moses and God, whatever, we need protection out here in the desert. We're just going to make a calf. And so Aaron, Moses' brother, he makes a golden calf for them, and they worship the calf. And Moses and God, they get furious, really, really furious. And God, he says, I'm going to send, you can go with an angel, but I'm not coming with you, okay? And so this story is Moses potentially going out without the presence of God, okay? This is his response to not going with God. I'm going to be reading from Exodus. It's going to be up on the screen. Whoop. I need water. I'm sorry. All right. So I'm going to be reading from Exodus chapter 33. Good. You have it up there, yes. Now Moses used to take a tent and pitch it outside the camp, some distance away, calling it the tent of meeting. Anyone inquiring of the Lord would go to the tent of meeting outside the camp. And whenever Moses went out to the tent, all the people rose and stood at the entrance to their tents, watching Moses until he entered the tent. As Moses went into the tent, the pillar of cloud would come down and stay at the entrance, while the Lord spoke with Moses. Whenever the people saw the pillar of cloud standing at the entrance to the tent, they all stood and worshipped, each at the entrance to their tent. The Lord would speak to Moses face to face, as one speaks to a friend. Then Moses would return to the camp, but his young aide Joshua, son of Nun, did not leave the tent. Moses said to the Lord, "You have been telling me lead these people, but you have not let me know whom you'll send with me. You've said, I know you by name, and you've found favor with me. If you are pleased with me, teach me your ways, so I may know you and continue to find favor with you. Remember that this nation is your people." The Lord replied, "My presence will go with you, and I will give you rest." Then Moses, we'll end here, it's fine. So, I don't want to put the Bible on the floor. Yes. So, Moses, he insisted, right, that they would not go on without God's presence. Moses actually said, to God after this, I would rather die than go on without you. Stepping out takes a lot of stepping into God's presence. Because honestly, the world doesn't need your Christian seal and stepping out without the Spirit of God. So in order to step out, Moses, he stepped into God's presence. He set up a physical tent. And from what we see from the text is that it wasn't like a one-time thing. This was continued, it was habitual. And it was for Moses and for the people. They knew what to do when he went out into the tent. They worshipped and he communed with God. It wasn't like, oh, I got instruction from God once and now I'm off and I'll check in with him sometime next year. No, it was Moses coming back again and again and again and to meet with God, right? And talk to him face to face. When Moses met with God in the burning bush earlier in the story in Exodus 3, God was speaking to Moses in a burning bush. And Moses was so afraid that he hid his face. And God told him to take off his shoes because it was holy ground. Not wearing shoes today. It's holy ground. God is holy. God is holy. But at the same time, he's so intensely personal. So yesterday morning, I have props with me because I usually teach children and not adults. So I had to bring some things in order to get you guys to see where I'm going. Anyways, yesterday morning, I am teaching to the kids. And I had been preparing, and I was struck by the poetry in Psalm 33. I think it's going to come up here. The poetry in Psalm 33 that says, "By the word of the Lord, the heavens were made, their starry host by the breath of his mouth," right? I was trying to think, like, how to get the kids like to grapple with, like, what does it mean that God that can breathe stars, he can breathe stars, he can breathe stars, like, and he wants to be our friend. What does that mean? So I was going like this, like, God can breathe, and then I said, I have confetti that's the shape of stars in my hands, and I go, and God can breathe stars, right? And what I should have anticipated, because I have small children, 45 kids come running up, right? Because they all want their own stars. So I had to be like, no, sit down in groups and get more stars, and like glowing stars everywhere in the room. And they all got their own star. But the thing is, this is what came to mind when I was reading this about Moses, right? The mouth of God that he still breathes stars. Like, this is a continual thing for him. He's still creating the universe, doing it with his mouth, right? And that mouth is the mouth that is talking to Moses face to face. Do you realize that you get to be friends with a God that's the creator of everything, right? That can breathe stars, and yet his mouth is talking to you like it's talking to Moses. It's just mind-blowing. And I am in awe that the star-breathing creator wants to be my friend. Like we see in John 15:15, like Jesus says, I don't call you servants, I call you friends. It is huge. It is huge. We get to belong to God's family. I have my next prop here. When I was in college, so I have a degree in social work and in refugee studies, and we had a psychology professor, and she was herself a refugee. And we were given 10 Post-it notes one day in class. We didn't know what it was for. And she said, you have to write 10 things about yourself, 10 identity markers, something that's important about you on these notes. And everyone writes on the notes. And then we're asked to list the notes from the least important to the most important. So number 10 is the least important, and number 1 is the most important. And we have our little stack of Post-it notes. And she says, imagine all sitting in a classroom, and she said, take away number 10 Post-it note and settle into the feeling of what it feels like to lose that today. We do it with number 10. And she said, and take number 9 and settle into the feeling of losing that identity marker, right? And we've written, I'm a daughter, I'm a friend, I live in this city, I have this hobby, I have this work title, all of these things that are a part of who we are. And we lose them one by one. And I remember still so clearly sitting in that classroom. And it brings tears to my eyes because on the last post-it note, on it stood, child of God, right? I am many things. I am. But when it comes down to it, and even if nothing else, I am that. So this was an exercise. Okay, I'm just going to take some water and pretend that that's why. Yes. This was an exercise that we had. We are all social workers training, right? This was an exercise to evoke compassion and understanding for people forced to flee. Okay, using 3 or 5 or even 10 post-it notes or identity markers of who they are in a single day or in a few days. And I encourage you to try the exercise. I think right now in Europe we need to be compassionate and we need to think about how we think about people that are forced to flee. But it also, the 10 things that you write down on the post-it notes, it reveals quite a lot about your identity structure and where you find meaning and purpose. Now, on my post-it, I primarily identified as a child of God. But for me personally, that identity has been and often still is challenged by the slightly different but somehow twin identity of servant of God, right? I am a doer. I like to do things, and I can easily get dragged into like doing things for God instead of being with God. Spending time in his presence and insisting like Moses that he would go with me, right? I just often go without him. One time I remember lying on our floor scrubbing the floors, right? And we were having, like, the house is going to be full of guests because we're church planting, and that's what it is. You get people in your house all the time. And so I'm scrubbing the floor, and I'm being rather nasty, if I have to be honest, in my mind towards Parola, because I'm like, he's not helping me with the floors and the house, and we need to, and I have the food. And then I hear God saying to me, do you want to present a clean house or a clean heart? Because today you don't really seem to be able to do both. And he was not rebuking me, okay? He was not rebuking me. He was inviting me. He was inviting me into his presence to be with him, to have community with him and the people coming to our house, not worrying about the floors, right? It was an invitation, and it really stopped me in my tracks on the floor, but sadly, I couldn't stop cleaning the floors. When Moses, he stepped into God's presence in that tent and talked to him like a friend face to face, there was something else that he didn't do. Okay? Moses, he insisted on God's presence. And I often insist on and settle with my own presence and my strength, and it doesn't get me very far. And as you see, like Moses in the text that we've just read, like he insists, that God would go with him. But Moses wasn't always like that. When he killed the Egyptian man that had attacked the Hebrew slave, he was acting, in his own power. Like he was using his own, like literally his own hands to solve the slave problem. His hands, his strength, his way of doing things, right? And it got him expelled. We need to go with God. 2 weeks after our first child, Samuel, he's 6 now. He's a wonderful, wonderful boy. Sorry, that had nothing to do with it. I was thinking of him. And then anyways, he was born, and then we sensed God leading us away. We were living in Copenhagen, and we sensed God. He was like closing down that chapter of our lives, and something new was going to happen, and we didn't know what it was. And we had just become parents, which is a huge deal in terms of identity and calling and trying to figure out, how to keep an infant alive and all of those things. We wanted our family to know, like, why are you calling us God? So both my husband and I, Perla, we have been we felt called to be missionaries our whole lives, right? So we've made like decisions off of that. We've learned languages to, go in that direction, and we've gone to university. Like Carola works as a doctor, and I'm a social worker, and we did that because we're going to go out into the mission field and be missionaries. Like, this is it, right? So we go off to Australia because we're going to a Bible school that trains medical missionaries, right? So we're here, and I'm so excited. I'm like, finally, like, we got together after all of the rejection and misunderstandings and stuff going on over here. We're finally a family, and we're on our way, right? So we're in Australia, and we're just waiting. Like, I'm like, God, I will go anywhere for you. I was so excited because I was making lists of like, I'm willing to give up this, and I'm going to live in poverty, and my child doesn't have to know their grandparents. And I was like going with all of these things, like, oh, I'm so ready, God. And I was like, where do you want me? This was me, right? And then God says, nothing. Okay, he said nothing to us. Really nothing, like no country, no sense of direction, and everyone is leaving, right? Leaving Australia to go to their different countries. And we didn't know, because we didn't have a place in Copenhagen anymore. We had like quit everything, and we became really desperate for God to show us where to go. Anyways, we're desperate. I'm not going to share that story because it's embarrassing. Anyway, we were really desperate in trying to listen to like the word of God in ways that was just like, okay, I'm going to share it because I have to. We gave Samuel, like, he was 3 months old at this time, okay? So we give him like a pencil in his hand, and we're like praying to God, like, what if he suddenly writes, or like we can see that it's like the country of like, okay, now you know me. And anyways, this is really embarrassing, but that was how desperate we were, because we didn't have a place to live, and we had a child, and it was just insane. But then finally, God, he spoke. Okay, he said, you are going to raise a family that loves me. And I was like, yes, God, let's go. I love you. Where to next, right? And then again, silence, okay? That was it. Love God. I was so excited about my identity as a missionary. All the things I should do for God, all of the stepping out, right? In my strength. I was going to step on some people. That was what I was going to do. I was earning my way in. My servant identity, out there stepping out. And in God's kindness, he told me that he had never asked for those specific sacrifices, right? And he led me to a desert that took 1.5 years to get through. Magnus Malm, he's a Swedish Christian author and retreat leader, and he has this wonderful little prophetic book from the 80s called Vägvisare, Vejviser in Danish. I don't know if it's translated. It means like how to go on or something, yeah. He says it so well in there. He says, no one has to wonder and grapple about what God has called us to. He has called us to Christ. We have a primary calling into his presence and down to his feet. Okay? The identity of being an apprentice of Jesus, a friend of God like Moses, a child of God, beloved child. That is the calling. Full stop. Okay? That is the calling. Really, I was and I am called to himself. Now today that gives me a sigh of relief, right? Oh. But then, when waiting for God in all of this, it was horrible. You know, I don't want to romanticize waiting for God because it was gut-wrenching. I hated it, okay? Most of you that know me, those years were not easy years, okay? Because I had to relearn everything I knew about why God cares about me. When ultimately, what we do with our time and our money and our resources, it's super important, okay? It's super important. I'm not saying anything else. It's really important. But the most important thing about me is still the inner post-it. I am a child of God. And no circumstances and poor choices on my part and missed opportunities can take that away. I get to be friends with God, okay? I get to be friends with God. And so a very basic rule to friendship is that you know like what the person is like. It's very basic. And 3 years ago when we were here at summer camp, my child, Samuel, he was 3, he said to me, oh, Mom, I saw Jesus this morning. You know, when your child says something like that, you're like, but I was trying to act like all cool and be like, oh, okay, what did he do? Like, and then he told me, Jesus, he was in like the big hall where we meet. He was in the big hall and he was dancing and doing the movements with the kids in the kids' worship. Sorry. Knew this. Okay. Right there, okay? He was dancing, and I was speechless, okay? Because of all the things I would imagine Jesus doing, okay, dancing with children was not one of them, okay? Sadly, because from the Bible, that would seem very likely. But to me, Jesus was stern and serious and very concerned about my stepping out, my doing good. He wasn't dancing with children, okay? But my friend, your friend, our God, he breathes stars and he dances with kids. And that's what we invite people into, okay? I've struggled with when you invite people into relationship with God. If I had stayed a servant, I would invite other people into, come join my slavery. It's not attractive, people. It's not attractive, okay? It changes how we see inviting people in, right? Because we invite him into friendship, okay? And Moses, he wanted to know what his friend was like. So he asked him, what is your name? Very basic, need to know things about your friend, right? And when I was preparing for today, I was reading a book called The Pentateuch as Narrative. The Pentateuch is the 5 books of Moses. And it's a wonderful book on the books of Moses. And the Old Testament scholar that wrote it, John Sailhammer, he commented on Yahweh's character, because really God's character is in his name, right? So he commented on Yahweh's character and name like this, and I think it will come up on the screen. The name, too many papers. The name of God, Yahweh, is meant to convey he who is present, or he who has promised to be present with his people. In giving his name to Moses, then God not only promised to be present with him and his people, but also recalled the promise itself, he who is with us. He who is with us. What a fantastic name for God, right? Kind of like Emmanuel, one of Jesus' names, means God with us, okay? God's name and his character is found in his name. His name is that he is with us. He's with you and he is with me. Moses, he went from hiding his face, you know, when meeting God, into talking to him face to face. And once he found that friendship, he insisted that they would go together. Don't settle, please don't settle on being God's servant when you get to be his friend. I serve God, I do, and I work hard and I believe in that, but I'm not a servant. I serve him. I am his friend, okay? And friends are different than servants. We have a almost 2-year-old, and she's learning to speak, and so she's speaking Danish and Swedish. And so you like every little word, you're like, oh, is it a Danish one or a Swedish one? And you know, we're keeping count, kind of, and I'm winning. Just, but one of her first words was kramis. That's a Swedish word, but I really like it. Kramis means little hug or a sweet hug. So it's a children's word for a hug, right? And she goes around and she just goes, kramis. And the whole family is just like, I'll volunteer. You know, you want those little snuggles with a 2-year-old. So that's the way it is with kids, right? Not servants. Servants don't go, kramis. Children, they go, kramis. God, I need you right now. Like my children will take my hands and they will put my hands on their faces when they need comfort. Okay? And they will wrap my arms around them when they need a hug. They won't say kramis, the big ones anymore. They just go, give me a hug, I need a hug. This is what we get to do. We get to just like take God's hand and be like, I need kramis. The servants don't get to do that. So don't settle on being God's servant, be his friend. So Moses, he had a tent, right? And Jesus, he went to he went up to mountains and solitary places to meet with God, right? There's this element of taking time away to be with God and to be in God's presence. It's more important than anything else, in the tent or on the mountain in the morning like we see Jesus doing. But I'm a mother. I had 3 kids in 5 years. When I get up early in the morning, honestly, it's not because of God. I've gotten up really, really early all week here because my kids are really excited about being at camp during the day, and then during the night, not so much. But seasons in life, they change, right? I'm a mother right now. I don't get up early to be with God. I get up early to take care of my children. And if the only way to God's presence was through like uninterrupted worship and prayer for hours to get into God's presence, I would be out. I mean, there'd be no God's presence for me for a while here, and that's not the way it is. There's no formula. Like, there's no guilty conscience. There is invitation, okay? To take off your shoes, like Moses, because that relationship is holy. It is a holy relationship, but you get to meet him face to face. Obviously, like seeking God's presence, we're the Vineyard, right? We worship. Wonderful worship this morning, and last night I was, so good, thank you. A few months back, the Swedish pastors we met, and then Mats Jolsson from Jönköping Vineyard, somewhere here, he reminded us that the Vineyard, it started with desperate and disillusioned people who worshipped. That's how we started, with desperate and disillusioned people that worshipped, okay? So if you're tired and confused and heartbroken and also disappointed after the pandemic, you're in a really good place to worship. And we worship, with music, but a few weeks ago we had a service in our church, and or like a gathering, and we're singing some songs in English. And I'm singing, and then a girl comes, beautiful 5-year-old Vera. And Vera's bilingual, she speaks Swedish and English at her house. And she comes and she pulls me like this, and I sit down and I say, "What's up, Vera?" And she says, "You have to stop them. They're singing in Swedish now, and there are people over here that only speak English. You need to change the words so that they can also participate, right?" And I say to Vera, like, that's, such a beautiful thing that you're saying, you want to include them, but we also have people in the church that only speak Swedish, so we have to do both, and you're just really lucky that you get to do both things. The thing is, Vera, she interrupted my singing, because I was talking to her. She interrupted my singing, but she did not interrupt my worship, okay? She led me to worship because she included everyone. She wanted everyone to be able to enter into the presence of God, okay? So you can be led in worship by a 5-year-old. That's not even singing, but that's wanting everyone to get to experience who he is. So spending time in God's presence, we worship, right? But we also pray. And recently I heard this wonderful line from Dallas Willard, that we shouldn't get a prayer life. Like a prayer life, it sounds like something that we need to do more of, but we don't, it's just draining, and so it's just like this guilty conscious thing that we have back here and we don't do it. We don't need a prayer life, we need a praying life. And I took a clue from the disciples when struggling with praying, and they asked, the disciples, they had asked when they didn't know how to pray, they asked Jesus, like they didn't ask for ministry strategies and how do we do this? They asked, we see you talking to God in a way that we want to be able to talk to God. Please teach us how to pray. That's what this disciple, that's what they asked, right? And what Jesus gave them is the Lord's Prayer. I learned it as a child, as you do, and then I sort of abandoned it. But, and I know you're all wondering why I have a unicorn umbrella with me. I have a 4-year-old, so I have many, everything is unicorn, right? Okay, Instagram, this is random, but I'll give it to you. So Instagram, the things that it suggests for me is gender reveal parties. Seen those? Gender reveal parties where it's like you see someone else that you don't know at all. Like they have 7 girls and they're waiting to see if they get a boy, and it's like, are they disappointed or are they glad? Like this is the reels. It's a few seconds you see a family go, woo, or no. And so this happens for me. This is Instagram for me, right? So I go, and it's just like 45 minutes. All of a sudden, I've spent 45 minutes just like watching random people I don't know to see what kind of gender their babies have. It's insane, okay? We need to not go on Instagram. And so instead of going to Instagram, I've decided that when I get like the, phone, I need some distraction. I've decided when my fingers think to go to Instagram, they go to this umbrella instead, okay? The Lord's Prayer. I was teaching the kids in our church about praying and what it means, right? And it's like sticking up an umbrella. It's raining, right? It's storms, rain, like life is difficult. We need an umbrella to protect us. And so when we put up the umbrella, that's us standing under the umbrella, getting protection from God, right? And so for me, read it now instead of Instagram and praying the Lord's Prayer. So let's see if they fall down. Okay, so I'm really children's pastor here. Whoop. And I stand under, right? Prayer keeps the rain off. But what falls on me underneath? What's raining in the umbrella? And now they're all sorry. Their hearts, if you can't see. Okay, what rains on me when praying the Lord's Prayer is his love, okay? And I stand here, and you can do this. Like the Israelites, it says that they worshipped in their tents, and they just did like this. Have you ever wondered about that in the Old Testament? It says like they bowed their heads and they worshipped. And I've always wondered, like, what does that mean? But you can do that like in the grocery store, like queue line. Instead of going on your phone like everyone else, you just go and you worship there. And you imagine, if you need some visual stuff, that you take up an umbrella, you put it up, and you stand under God's love, and you ask for protection. And I pray the Lord's Prayer with that. But I usually don't get beyond our Father. Because right now, that's where I need to be. Our Father is that I get to be a child of God, and I need that truth a lot right now. So I just stay there, under the umbrella, our Father. It means that I get to be his child, and everyone else that I'm around me, also child of God. So I should have looked at that. Okay. Sorry. I'm supposed to finish now, so I'm just going to do that. Frustrating. Anyways. Okay, I'll close off. I love the little line, I think it's going to be up on the screen, from the text. Then Moses would return to the camp, but his young aide Joshua, son of Nun, did not leave the tent. His young aide Joshua, son of Nun, did not leave the tent. Why didn't he leave the tent? Because God's Spirit was there, okay? The aroma was there. He wanted to hang around. Let's be Joshua people that linger, okay? Linger in God's presence. And Joshua, he went on to be the leader, and he conquered the promised land, and he was an awesome leader. But I think that the key to his boldness is found right here. The key to his, like he obeyed God at Jericho. He had to walk around in silence with like so many people in silence for 6 days. That's obedience and trust in God, okay? Joshua, he knew God's presence. And I think that this is why, because he lingered, right? He stuck around in God's presence. It took a lot of courage to stay at it in Jericho. I usually, if I'm doing something awkward or difficult in the kingdom of God, then if I stuck it out 6 minutes, I'm doing good. Okay, he did something that was strange to people, and that like he had to trust that God knew what he was doing for 6 days straight, okay? Because he knew God's presence. He was lingering. Like my children, they linger when I've told them to do something, like pick up their toys, and they just linger and hang out around me, because it just doesn't really appeal to them to pick up the toys right there and then. And sometimes they just don't want to pick up toys. Sometimes they have something heavy that they want to share, and so they linger. They just like stuck around. You can tell they don't really know where to go. They're just like walking around. Have you had children like that? Like, and they linger, okay? And it makes me so happy as a mother that they hang out around me, okay? they linger, okay? Let's be people that linger in God's presence, that talk to him face to face. Yes, I think I'm going to close here because we need fika. I'm just going to pray for you guys to end, if that's okay. We have 2 minutes. So a picture came to mind for me this morning as I was preparing for this. I haven't had glasses my whole life. When I was pregnant, they found out that, well, I found out that I couldn't see. So I was like in a museum, and my cousin was like, oh, that's that amazing artist over here. And I was like, wow, you really like know him by heart? You can just say, and she's like, no, I'm reading on the sign. And I was like, I didn't even see that there was a sign to read, so I realized I needed to get glasses. And so I went in, and I thought, you know, it was the hormones with the pregnancy, that can change your eyesight. But it was really just that I had needed glasses my whole life, and I didn't know. Then I was running into trees as a child a lot, and they checked, but they didn't find anything. But they told me I had needed glasses my whole life, and I didn't have them. And then in the store, they make these like makeup glasses that are not real glasses, but just like they're trying on to see if this is the right fit for you. And they said, can you just go into the store because we need to make sure, because it's really strange that you just have gone around without glasses for 35 years. And I put them on, and I go out into the store, and I saw colors that I hadn't seen before. And not like I knew that there was blue, but it was just, I didn't know that there was blue in that place. And so everything became a lot clearer. Now I get headaches without glasses, right? But this is the thing. I've been a servant of God I've known God my whole life, and I've been a servant of God for many years without being his friend. Okay? I've been a servant, and I've led things, and I wasn't his friend. And so if that's you, that can relate to the glasses thing, that you've gone on your whole life and it's like, oh, wow, there was something else, there was something more. There was something besides being the servant. There was being a friend, okay? I'm just going to close in prayer if that is you, and for all of us just to grow in intimacy. So take off your shoes and see him face to face. Right? He breathes stars. He's amazing. I'm just going to pray for you guys. So God, I thank you that you're here. You're here at this camp. You're in the kids' camp. You're wherever we are. It's not just when we're in here. It's everywhere. Thank you that you made beautiful nature here, and that we get to be with you here. And I pray for anyone that's in here, and I pray for myself, that I would no longer reject to be a servant and enter into being your friend. We welcome friendship with you. God, thank you that we get to be called not servants, but friends. Bless you all. Amen.
Thank you so much. And now it's fika, and you know where to find it since it's Thursday. And enjoy half an hour until the seminar starts. And you can read more about the seminars in the hallway by Café Mark. Okay?